I fear that you will not be able to attain mastery, and then the result will be something like a poorly drawn tiger that looks like a dog. As the ancients aptly put it, instruction lacking sternness is the teacher's sloth. Learning without accomplishment is the student's fault. If the three of you are indeed sincere about the matter, you may burn some incense to worship heaven and earth. Let me then transmit some divine strength to you first, and only thereafter can we teach you the martial arts." Filled with delight by these words, the three young princes went to find an incense table and carried it back themselves. Having purified their hands and lighted sticks of incense, they bowed deeply to heaven. After the ceremony, they then asked for instruction from their masters. Turning around, Pilgrim saluted the Tang monk in turn and said, "Let me inform the honored master and ask for his pardon. Since I was delivered by your great virtue that year in the Mountain of Two Frontiers, and since I embraced the faith of Buddhism, I have followed you in your westward journey. Though I have yet to repay all the kindness of my master, I have nonetheless served you with all my heart and all my strength. Now that we have arrived at a region in Buddha's kingdom, we have the good fortune of meeting three worthy princes who have made submission to us and are desirous of learning the martial arts. If they become our disciples, they will be the grand disciples of my master. I want to make this special report to you before I begin instruction." Tripitaka was exceedingly pleased. When 8 Rules and Sha monk saw pilgrims saluting their master, they, too, went to their knees and kowtowed to Tripitaka, saying, "Master, we are foolish persons, slow of speech and dull-witted, and we don't know how to speak. We simply beg you to take the lofty seat of Dharma, and allow also the two of us the pleasure of taking disciples. They'll add to our remembrance of the journey to the west." In delight, Tripitaka gave his consent. In a secluded room, behind the gauze drying pavilion, Pilgrim traced out on the ground a diagram of the Big Dipper. Then he asked the 3 princes to prostrate themselves inside the diagram and, with eyes closed, exercise the utmost concentration. Behind them he himself recited in silence the true sayings of realized immortality, and intoned the words of Dara I as he blew divine breaths into their visceral cavities. Their primordial spirits were thus restored to their original abodes. Then he transmitted secret oral formulas to them so that each of the princes received the strength of 1,000 arms. He next helped them to circulate and build up the fire phases, as if they themselves were carrying out the technique for shedding the mortal embryo and changing the bones. Only when the circulation of the vital force had gone through all the circuits of their bodies, modeled on planetary movements, did the young princes regain consciousness. When they jumped to their feet and gave their own faces a wipe, they felt more energetic than ever. Each of them, in fact, had become so sturdy in his bones and so strong in his ligaments that the eldest prince could handle the golden-hooped rod, the second prince could wield the 9-pronged muckrake, and the third prince could lift the fiend-rooting staff. When the old prince saw this, he could not have been more pleased, and another vegetarian banquet was laid out to thank the master and his 3 disciples. Right before the banquet tables, however, they began their instruction. The one studying the rod performed with the rod. The one studying the rake performed with the rake. And the one studying the staff performed with the staff. The princes thus succeeded in making a few turns and several movements, but they were, after all, mortals, and they found the goings rather strenuous. After exercising for a while, they began to pant heavily. Indeed, they could not last long, though their weapons might have the ability to undergo transformation. In their advances and retreats, their attacks and offenses, the princes simply could not attain the wonder of natural transformation. Later that day, the banquet came to an end. The next day the 3 princes came again to thank their masters and to say, "We thank the Divine Master for endowing us with strength in our arms. Though we are now able to hold the weapons of our masters, however, we find it difficult to wield and turn them. We propose, therefore, that artisans be asked to duplicate the 3 weapons. They will use your weapons as models but take some of the weight off. Would the masters grant us permission?" "Fine. Fine. Fine," said 8 Rules. "That's a remarkable proposal. You really can't use our weapons in the first place, and besides, we need them for the protection of the law and the subjugation of demons. You should indeed make 3 other weapons." The young princes immediately ordered the ironsmiths to purchase 10,000 pounds of raw iron. A tent was pitched in the front courtyard of the royal residence to serve as a temporary factory, and furnace and forge were set up. First, the iron was refined into steel in 1 day. The next day they asked Pilgrim and his 2 brothers to place the golden hooped rod, the 9-pronged rake, and the fiend rooting staff in the tent so that the smiths could make copies of them. The weapons were thus left there day and night. Alas! These weapons originally were treasures meant to be carried by the pilgrims on their persons and inseparable from them for one moment. Even when concealed by the pilgrims' bodies, they would exude great radiance to protect their owners. Now that they had been placed in the tent factory for several days, the myriad shafts of luminous mist and auspicious air emitted by these weapons flooded the sky and covered the earth. One night, a monster spirit sat up in his abode, which happened to be some 70 miles away from the city, in a mountain called Leopard's Head and a cave named Tiger's Mouth. When he suddenly caught sight of the luminous mist and auspicious air, he mounted the clouds to investigate and found that the radiance was coming from the royal palace. Lowering his cloud to draw near, the monster spirit discovered the 3 weapons and was moved to delight and desire. "Marvelous treasures! Marvelous treasures!" he exclaimed. "I wonder who uses them, and why they are placed here. This has to be my affinity. Let's take them away. Let's take them away." As his affection grew, he at once summoned a powerful gust and swept away all 3 weapons and returned to his own cave. Thus it is that Tao can't be left for a moment. What can be left is not the Tao. When weapons divine are stolen, the seekers have labored in vain. In the end, we don't know how those weapons will be found. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.